The Toronto Raptors have an impossible decision on their hands, given all the reports that have come out over the last month, heck, even the stuff that's come out over the last 24 hours, which we'll dive into in this video. It seems like the team has two possible directions that they can go, which will affect the franchise's future for the next decade. And the first route starts with the team giving Pascal Siakam a max contract extension, which all the reports have sort of indicated, and the new stuff we've heard indicates this isn't the likely route that the team will go, despite the fact myself and a lot of Toronto Raptors fans believe Pascal Siakam deserves a max contract extension. He deserves the bag that being an all-NBA player, being an NBA champion, even though he wasn't the number one option on that championship-winning squad, you deserve that type of bag when you give the production Pascal Siakam has delivered for this team in recent years. But the main reason I don't think is the money, and the reports don't seem to indicate this either. Seems there's a hidden cost to giving Pascal Siakam a max contract extension, and given everything we've seen, it's not something a lot of people will put together, but you likely lose OG Anunoby if you go the route of building around Pascal Siakam. As for people that don't know, OG has hired a new agent this offseason with one goal in mind. He has one goal, we broke it down on videos, to have the ball in his hands more this upcoming season so he can get a massive bag in the future. The same way Jeremy Grant has got it when he demanded a bigger role, or when he signed with the Pistons to have a bigger role with his team. OG Anunoby wants the ball in his hand so he can spread his wings as an offensive player, and he is just not going to get that with this Toronto Raptors team if Pascal Siakam is brought back. And we don't really have the money to give OG Anunoby an absolutely ridiculous bag with Scottie Barnes' future extension incoming, Gary Trent Jr. just signing, opting into his player option, which it seems like an extension's coming, which we haven't heard more from Chris Haynes after he dropped that bomb on day one of free agency. Pascal back on a max contract extension, and then Jakob Poeltl brought into this team. So it doesn't look like we'd be able to keep OG Anunoby if we go down this route. So that leads us to option 2, and it's where all the reports seem to indicate the Toronto Raptors are leaning on taking, and it's building this team around Scottie Barnes and OG Anunoby in Darko Rajakovic's new system. And this is something that a lot of people that are super high on Scottie Barnes, a lot of people that believe in OG Anunoby's ability to take his game to the next level if he can take that advanced role, have been calling for, saying Pascal Siakam's been holding the team back. He's older, he doesn't fit this team's timeline, but the cost to doing this is you are trading Pascal Siakam. All the reports that everyone's been so frustrated that have come out over the past month indicating that we are getting subpar, lackluster packages in return for our all-NBA player. That's the type of deal you get back when you build around Scottie Barnes and OG Anunoby. That's just the case. That's the reality of it, and it's because of two reasons. Because Pascal Siakam, one, is on an expiring contract this upcoming season. He has 1 year left on his deal, so next summer he's available to leave to whatever team he is looking for. Any team he chooses, he can join that roster. So basically, Pascal Siakam, he could be a rental for those squads, and he is, the second reason, unwilling to sign a contract extension with any other team. Guarantee he'll bring back or stay with the squad if he is dealt away from the Toronto Raptors. He's trying to use all the leverage he can. He's a star that wants to stay in Toronto. He's happy with the organization. He's happy with the city. Loves the fan base. Won a championship here. He wants to get his max money and stay in Toronto. And he's using all the leverage that he can in order to make it happen. And the Toronto Raptors really only have... before we even start diving into the news, I'm sort of summarizing this. We're already into the meat of the video, but another cost to this is if you deal away Pascal Siakam, you are taking a lucrative risk. You are taking a monstrosity of a risk that you put yourself in this trade deadline, Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, all the decision makers in the front office, by dealing away a first round selection that's only top 6 protected. Because with Pascal Siakam on this team, running it back, there's a better chance that this team will be better next season. Dealing away an all-NBA player, especially for as much everyone hated Fred VanVleet. Not everyone. I was a fan of Fred VanVleet, but losing Fred and Pascal Siakam in an offseason, I don't care how much people want to argue. It's a addition by subtraction, all these types of things. Losing two guys that have been all-stars within the last 2 years is not a win. It's not an improvement on the roster. Grady Dick getting substituted in, and Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam on their way out does not make this team better. And the Toronto Raptors, last season, they didn't even make the playoffs. So if we don't have our first round pick, it's top 6 protected, but with OG Anunoby, with Jakob Poeltl, with Scottie Barnes still in this team, we are just ripe to potentially get like the 10th worst record in the NBA next season if players don't take a major leap, if they don't take a major step forward. The team doesn't want to tank, so we could be giving up a lottery pick for, for going the route of young players. You go in a young direction, you do it so you can draft high-level talent. So there are some insane risks on both sides, some insane downfalls, because we know OG Anunoby is an extremely high-level defender. He's a player I don't want the Toronto Raptors to deal. Ideally, in a hypothetical world, it would be great to keep OG Anunoby, Scottie Barnes, Pascal Siakam, Jakob Poeltl, all these dudes, Gary Trent Jr. on this squad and run it back and see how it goes with this team. But OG Anunoby wants the ball in his hands more. It's, as I already iterated, he has hired an agent to explicitly do this. And when you look at Pascal Siakam, right, averaging 24 points per game, right, giving the coach coming out, the coach of the Toronto Raptors, Darko Rajakovic, coming out and directly saying that he plans on giving the ball to Scottie Barnes more. The ball will be in his hands a lot more next season. There's not a lot of room. There's not a lot of opportunities for touches for OG with Fred VanVleet on his way out. So, I already talked about the contract extension, the opportunity. Keeping Pascal Siakam, given OG Anunoby's wants and needs, you are risking losing him for nothing. Losing him for nothing next summer. And I feel like Masai Ujiri, given the fact that he was caught off guard by all accounts of Fred VanVleet walking this summer to the Houston Rockets and the contract he was offered and all these types of things, he doesn't want to do that with Pascal Siakam or OG Anunoby. And it seems like the team, and given all the reports, they're leaning towards dealing Pascal Siakam. Mark Stein has come out on Sportsnet. Don't have a lot of screenshots in these videos because a lot of people just did voice reports. But Mark Stein came out on Sportsnet and said there's a 70% chance the Raptors deal Siakam. From his gauge, from his opinion, 30% that they bring him back on a contract extension. Right? It seems like by all the accounts, everything we've been breaking down in these videos, as said, if you want to stay up to date with everything, subscribe to the Raptors Digest. We've been covering it all in these vids. The Raptors are not going to give Pascal Siakam that contract extension, and they're going to likely deal him away. According to Mark Stein, it's a 70% to 30% chance they're on that front. And, Michael Grange has come out and said that the Hawks, or multiple reporters, whether Zach Lowe came out with discussed on his podcast, Mark Stein, Michael Grange, Brett Siegel, they've all talked about the Atlanta Hawks being a major suitor, and Stein has basically said all the reporting he's heard really leans into the Atlanta Hawks talk, the offers that are coming out on that front. We talked about in yesterday's video, DeAndre Hunter deleting all his Instagram stories, dropping dimes 20, not the fake dropping dimes has been wrong and stuff, but dropping dimes 20, saying that Pascal Siakam's a done deal to Atlanta, right? That team, they're heavy in the mix, the Magic, the Pacers, all these types of squads. Zach Lowe's also discussed the potential of the Oklahoma City Thunder making a deal that involved Lou Dort, some of their assets, some of their picks coming back to Toronto, and it seems like the general return for the Toronto Raptors would be a solid young player. Nothing too crazy. No superstars by any means. It doesn't seem like we're going to get the Benedict Mathurins of the Pacers. We'd get the Andrew Nembharts. We're not getting the Josh Giddeys of the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're getting the Lou Dorts from the Atlanta Hawks. We're not getting the DeJounte Murrays. We are getting the AJ Griffins and DeAndre Hunters. There's not going to be an insane young player coming back to the team. We'll get some minimal draft capital and then salary filler. That's the type of return that we are getting, according to the reports, according to the stuff that has come out from Mark Stein, again, from his blog, Substack, from his talks on Sportsnet, right? From Zach Lowe discussing these things on his Low Post podcast, from Michael Grange making these articles, breaking down these different things. We haven't really dove into the Orlando Magic situation and stuff, but they have some interesting players. I mean, Wendell Carter Jr. would be a cool piece. Jalen Suggs would be an interesting addition to this squad, especially where we have some question marks about the point guard position, whether or not Scottie Barnes, OG Anunoby running point, Scottie Barnes will have the ball in his hands more next season, but it's two extremely difficult decisions with major risks on both sides. And personally, I'm of the belief Pascal Siakam deserves that contract extension, but losing OG Anunoby to keep Pascal Siakam, it's just really difficult to decide what route this should go. And, it makes sense. It kind of puts all the reports, everything we've been hearing into perspective, and it makes sense why Masai Ujiri has gone back and forth in these decisions, because it doesn't seem like there's a right answer, but criticism does have to be thrown to Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, the decision makers, given how they handled this trade deadline. This was a risky position to put this franchise into, and they bet the house on bringing Jakob Poeltl, being able to make an 8th seed playoff run, and the Miami Heat validated that strategy could be in theory something that works, but it didn't for the Toronto Raptors, and now we let Fred VanVleet walk for nothing. It didn't seem like we'd get an insane return from him at the deadline. I'm less frustrated about that specific trade or non-trade, keeping Fred VanVleet and playing it out to the summer, that I am, if you knew there was a risk to Fred VanVleet leaving, and then your decision was to, deal Pascal Siakam or not make a decision on OG or Pascal till their values are kind of nuked to an extreme level. You got to be better with asset management there, Masai. And he's had such good foresight over the career as a Toronto Raptors general manager, now president of basketball operations. But it's a tough position the franchise is in, and now we have extremely difficult decisions to make that, frankly, no one's going to be happy with. So it is what it is. We'll continue to report on all the latest news. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. You guys are the best for making this far. Let me know in the comment section which direction you think the Toronto Raptors should go, but you guys are the best. I'm signing out. Cheers.